On March 15th, 2019, at exactly 11:47 p.m., Rebecca Martinez died in the parking garage of the Meridian office complex in downtown Phoenix. The security footage captured every detail. Her body hitting the concrete, the pool of blood, the twisted angle of her neck. There's just one problem with that story. Rebecca Martinez watched that footage 3 days before she died. Tonight, we're diving into a case that challenges everything we think we know about time, fate, and the thin line between prediction and predestination. This is the story of a woman who saw her own death and couldn't escape it. Tonight's story is titled, "She Watched Herself Die on CCTV Before It Happened." But before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, if you're wearing headphones, perfect. If not, you might want to put some on. Or you can lower the volume now, just enough so my voice blends gently with the stillness of your room. Close your eyes. Let your shoulders sink just a bit more into your pillow. You don't have to do anything. Just listen. Rebecca Martinez was nothing special. That's not meant as an insult, it's just the truth. She was 28 years old, worked as a data analyst for a mid-sized insurance company, lived alone in a studio, apartment with her cat, Mr. Whiskers. She paid her bills on time, called her mother every Sunday, and had exactly 3 friends she saw regularly. Rebecca's life was predictable, comfortable, safe. Every morning at 7:15, she'd grab her coffee from the same bodega. Every evening at 6:30, she'd return to her apartment building. Every night at 11:45, she'd walk through the underground parking garage to reach the elevator. The Meridian office complex wasn't anything special either. Built in 1987, it housed 14 different companies across 12 floors. The parking garage was standard, concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, security cameras in every corner. The kind of place you'd walk through 1,000 times without thinking twice. But on March 12, 2019, Rebecca's routine was about to change forever. It started with a phone call. Detective James Holloway from the Phoenix Police Department contacted Rebecca at her office. His voice was professional, measured, but there was something underneath it. Something that made Rebecca's stomach clench before he even explained why he was calling. "Ms. Martinez," Detective Holloway said, "we need you to come down to the station. There's something you need to see." Rebecca sat in interview room B, staring at a blank television screen mounted on the wall. Detective Holloway sat across from her, his fingers drumming against a manila folder. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The air conditioning rattled. "Before I show you this," Detective Holloway said, "I need you to understand that what you're about to see is unusual. We've had our tech department verify it 3 times. We've brought in outside consultants. Everyone confirms the same thing." Rebecca's mouth was dry. "What am I looking at?" Detective Holloway picked up a remote and pointed it at the screen. Security footage from the Meridian office complex, specifically from camera 7 in the parking garage. This footage was recorded at 11:47 p.m. on March 15th. The screen flickered to life. Black and white security footage. Rebecca could see the familiar concrete walls, the painted parking spaces, the elevator doors in the distance. The timestamp in the corner read, the 15th of March, 2019, 23 hours 47 minutes and 33 seconds. And then Rebecca saw herself. On the screen, she watched as a figure that looked exactly like her walked across the parking garage. Same height, same build, same dark hair pulled back in the same ponytail she wore to work every day. Same gray coat she'd bought last winter. The figure on the screen walked toward the elevator, but she never made it. A section of the concrete ceiling, directly above the walking path, suddenly gave way. A massive chunk of concrete and rebar crashed down, striking the figure with devastating force. The impact was immediate, final. Rebecca watched herself die. "This is impossible," Rebecca whispered, staring at the screen. The footage had ended, frozen on the final frame, her body lying motionless beneath tons of concrete debris. Detective Holloway leaned forward. The timestamp shows March 15th. Today is March 12th. According to this footage, you die in 3 days. Rebecca's hands were shaking. This has to be fake. Someone's playing a sick joke. You can fake anything with computers these days. That's what we thought too, Detective Holloway said. He opened the manila folder and spread out several documents. We had 3 independent forensic video analysts examine this footage. All of them confirmed it's genuine. No digital manipulation. No editing. No computer-generated imagery. Rebecca picked up one of the reports. The technical language meant nothing to her, but the conclusion was clear. The footage was authentic. How is this possible? She asked. Detective Holloway shook his head. We don't know. But here's what we do know. 6 months ago, we received an anonymous tip. Someone called our tip line and said they had information about a future murder. They gave us a date, a time, and a location. March 15th, 11:47 p.m., Meridian Office Complex parking garage. But this isn't murder, Rebecca said. It's an accident. Is it? Detective Holloway rewound the footage and played it again. Watch carefully. Look at the ceiling just before it collapses. Rebecca focused on the concrete above. At first, she saw nothing unusual. But then, just seconds before the collapse, she noticed something. A small puff of dust, then another, as if something was being loosened. Someone sabotaged that ceiling, Detective Holloway said. This isn't an accident, Ms. Martinez. Someone is planning to kill you. The next 48 hours were a blur of police interviews, security briefings, and sleepless nights. Rebecca had been assigned protective custody, 2 officers stationed outside her apartment, another following her to and from work. But the questions haunted her more than the fear. Who would want to kill her? And how did someone record footage of an event that hadn't happened yet? Detective Holloway's investigation revealed disturbing patterns. The anonymous tipster who called 6 months ago knew details that hadn't been released to the public. They knew Rebecca's full name, her work schedule, even the fact that she walked through the parking garage every night at exactly 11:45. Someone's been watching you, Detective Holloway told her during their 3rd meeting. We've reviewed security footage from the past 6 months. There are at least 12 instances where the same figure appears in the background of your daily routine. He showed her still frames from various cameras around the city. A figure in a dark hoodie, always keeping their distance, always positioned to observe Rebecca without being noticed. We've also examined the structural integrity of the Meridian parking garage, Detective Holloway continued. The section of ceiling that collapses in the footage, it's been deliberately weakened. Someone has been working on it for months, removing small amounts of support material each time. Rebecca studied the photographs of the compromised ceiling. So this person, they've been planning this for half a year. At minimum. But here's what doesn't make sense. How did they record footage of something that hasn't happened yet? Our tech experts are stumped. The metadata on the video file shows it was created on March 15th at 11:47 p.m. But we received it on March 10th. Ms. Martinez, I have to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. Is there anyone in your life who might have access to advanced technology? Anyone involved in experimental physics, time research, anything like that? Rebecca shook her head. I'm a data analyst. My friends work in marketing and retail. My family runs a small restaurant. We're not the kind of people who have access to time machines. But even as she said it, something nagged at the back of her mind. A memory she couldn't quite grasp. On the evening of March 14th, less than 24 hours before her scheduled death, Rebecca couldn't sleep. She sat in her living room, staring out the window at the city lights, trying to make sense of the impossible situation. The protective detail had been doubled. 4 officers now watched her apartment building. Detective Holloway had personally assured her that she would not be walking through the Meridian parking garage tomorrow night. She would be in protective custody, safely away from the building when 11:47 p.m. arrived. But the nagging memory was getting stronger. Something about the footage bothered her beyond the obvious impossibility of its existence. She picked up her phone and called Detective Holloway. It was past midnight, but he answered on the second ring. I need to see the footage again, she said. Ms. Martinez, it's late. You should be resting. Please, there's something I missed. I need to see it again. An hour later, Rebecca sat in the same interview room, watching herself die for the 4th time. But now she knew what was bothering her. Stop it there, she said, just as the figure on screen approached the elevator. Can you zoom in on my face? Detective Holloway enhanced the image. The resolution was grainy, but Rebecca could make out enough detail to confirm her suspicion. That's not me, she whispered. Detective Holloway leaned closer to the screen. What do you mean? Look at the nose. It's slightly different. And the way she walks, I don't walk like that. My left foot turns out slightly when I'm tired. Hayes doesn't. Rebecca studied the image more carefully. The woman on screen looked like her, dressed like her, even moved through the garage following her exact routine. But it wasn't her. Someone is impersonating me, Rebecca said. But why? Detective Holloway spent the next 6 hours running facial recognition software on the enhanced footage. At 7:23 a.m. on March 15th, 16 hours and 24 minutes before Rebecca was supposed to die, he got a match. The woman in the footage was Amanda Foster, 29 years old, an actress who specialized in body doubling for film productions. More importantly, she had been reported missing 3 days ago. She was hired for a private job, Detective Holloway explained to Rebecca over the phone. According to her agent, someone paid her $5,000 to spend a week studying your routines and learning to mimic your walk, your mannerisms, even your daily schedule. Rebecca felt sick, so Amanda Foster is going to die instead of me. Not if we can help it. We've got teams surrounding the Meridian complex. The moment anyone approaches that building, we'll have them in custody. But at 3:17 p.m. that afternoon, Detective Holloway received a call that changed everything. Amanda Foster's body had been found in a warehouse on the outskirts of Phoenix. She had been dead for 2 days. The medical examiner estimated time of death at approximately 11:47 p.m. on March 13th. The same timestamp that appeared on the future security footage. The footage isn't from the future, Detective Holloway realized. It's from the past. Someone killed Amanda Foster 2 days ago, staged it to look like the Meridian parking garage, and then digitally altered the background to match the garage security camera perspective. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. So I'm not going to die tonight. The immediate threat is over, but we still don't know who orchestrated this or why. Someone went to extraordinary lengths to make you believe you were going to die. The question is, what did they gain from it? The answer came at 11:47 p.m. on March 15th, exactly when Rebecca was supposed to die. While Rebecca sat safely in protective custody, Detective Holloway received an urgent call from the Meridian office complex. The building's night security guard had discovered something unusual in the parking garage. A section of the concrete ceiling had indeed been sabotaged, exactly as shown in the footage. But it wasn't designed to collapse from natural structural failure. Hidden within the weakened concrete were small explosive charges, set to detonate at exactly 11:47 p.m. The charges were triggered remotely. Someone had been watching, waiting for Rebecca to arrive at her usual time. But Rebecca wasn't there. She was in protective custody, 40 miles away. Instead, the explosives detonated in an empty parking garage, bringing down several tons of concrete and rebar in a thunderous crash that shattered windows 3 floors up. It was an elaborate plan, Detective Holloway later explained to Rebecca. Someone wanted you dead, but they also needed an alibi. By creating fake future footage and making us believe in some kind of time paradox, they ensured that you would be in protective custody when the real attempt on your life occurred. Rebecca shook her head in disbelief, but the plan failed. I'm still alive. Because they underestimated police procedure. They assumed we'd dismiss the footage as a hoax or that we'd simply tell you to avoid the parking garage that night. They didn't expect us to put you in full protective custody. The investigation into who orchestrated the elaborate murder plot continued for 3 more weeks. The answer, when it came, was both mundane and chilling. Rebecca's ex-boyfriend, David Thornton, was arrested on April 7, 2019. He had been planning her murder for 8 months, ever since she had testified against him in a domestic violence case that resulted in his conviction and 6-month jail sentence. David had used his time in minimum security prison to plan an elaborate revenge scheme. He was a freelance video editor before his incarceration, and he had the technical skills necessary to create convincing fake footage. He hired Amanda Foster to study Rebecca's routines, Detective Holloway explained during David's trial. He filmed Amanda walking through a mock-up of the parking garage, then digitally composite that footage to match the Meridian security camera's perspective and lighting. The most disturbing part of David's plan was its psychological component. He had spent months researching Rebecca's personality, knowing that she was logical, analytical, and would be deeply disturbed by the apparent impossibility of viewing her own future death. He wanted her to suffer, the prosecutor argued. The murder was only part of it. He wanted her to experience 3 days of terror, believing she was trapped by fate and unable to escape her destiny. David had sabotaged the parking garage ceiling months in advance, working during late-night hours when the building was empty. He had planned to trigger the explosives by remote detonation, ensuring that Rebecca would be crushed by concrete and rebar at exactly 11:47 p.m. on March 15th. The fake future footage was designed to throw off any police investigation. If Rebecca died exactly as shown in the mysterious video, investigators would be focused on explaining the impossible time paradox rather than looking for a more conventional murderer. But the plan had a fatal flaw. David underestimated how seriously the police would take the threat. David Thornton was convicted of first-degree murder in the death of Amanda Foster and attempted murder in the case against Rebecca Martinez. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During his sentencing hearing, David showed no remorse. When asked if he had anything to say, he looked directly at Rebecca and spoke for the first time during the entire trial. "You were supposed to die," he said, his voice flat and emotionless. "I showed you your own death, and you still couldn't accept it. Some people just refuse to learn their place." Rebecca never returned to work at the Meridian office complex. She moved to a different city, changed her name, and started a new life. But the experience left permanent scars. "I still have nightmares," she told a reporter 1 year later, in her only public interview about the ordeal. "Not about dying, about watching myself die. There's something uniquely horrible about seeing your own death, even when you know it's fake." Detective Holloway, who led the investigation, reflected on the case's broader implications. "We live in an age where technology can be used to create any reality, to make us believe anything. This case was a reminder that the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a bomb, it's doubt. When you can make someone doubt their own perception of reality, you have complete power over them." The Meridian office complex was renovated after the incident. The parking garage was completely rebuilt with new safety standards and additional security measures. But for months afterward, employees reported feeling uneasy walking through the space where Rebecca Martinez was supposed to have died. Today, Rebecca Martinez lives under her new identity in a small town in Colorado. She works as a librarian, has adopted 2 cats, and has slowly begun to trust the world again. She never walks alone at night. She checks her surroundings constantly, and she has never, not once, watched the security footage that showed her death. "I learned something important from that experience," she said in her interview. "The future isn't fixed. Death isn't inevitable just because someone shows you a video of it happening. We have more control over our destinies than we think." But sometimes, late at night, Rebecca still wonders, what if David's plan had worked? What if she had dismissed the police investigation and walked through that parking garage at 11:47 p.m. on March 15, 2019? Would fate have found a way to make the fake footage real? We'll never know, and maybe that's for the best. This has been the story of Rebecca Martinez, the woman who watched herself die on CCTV before it happened. Some mysteries are solved by logic and investigation. Others remind us that the line between reality and deception is thinner than we'd like to believe. And sometimes, the most terrifying thing isn't what we don't know about the future, it's what someone else is willing to make us believe.